DEA begins selecting witnesses. Witnesses? What did they witness? Witnesses for marijuana rescheduling hearing, inviting industry stakeholders and prohibitionists to testify. So as soon as I hear prohibitionists, you know they're going to get Sabbath, right? Because that's what that guy does, right? Paid to be a fucking prohibitionist. Fuck that guy. Anyway, okay. The Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, has started selecting witnesses to participate in the much anticipated hearing on the Biden administration proposal, which is dumb, to federally reschedule, they spelt deschedule wrong, reschedule marijuana. Oh, marijuana. You know that they're not clued in as soon as it's in the marijuana moment. Of course they're going to use that slang word. Reschedule marijuana. That's scheduled for December. That's scheduled for this December. Marijuana moment has learned. Lots of marijuana in that sentence. Okay, so this comes about after 7 months after the Justice Department finally proposed moving cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 of the Controlled Substances Act, otherwise known as CSA, following a scientific review. After public comment period, which saw tens of thousands of people weigh in on the issue, a hearing was set for December the 2nd to gather additional expert input. I might have to chime in on that. With just over a month until that hearing, several witnesses have now been notified by selection about their selection by the DEA. They include at least one of the top cannabis industry organization, a drug testing association, and 2 prohibitionist groups. Wonderful. The National Cannabis Association, or Industry Association, NCIA, is among those that received a note from the DEA this week to request to participate in the hearing has been granted. A source familiar with the administration proceedings told the Marijuana Moment that anti-cannabis groups such as Smart Approaches to Marijuana, SAM, that's Sabbath's group, right? And the Community for Anti-Drug Coalitions in America, that's abbreviated CADCA, and the National Drug and Alcohol Screening Association, so the testing people, right, have also received notices granting their request to participate in this expert input. This is a response to your request to the Drug Enforcement Administration for a hearing or to participate regarding the notice of proposed cannabis rulemaking transfer from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 in the Controlled Substances CSA Act. The DEA administration, Ann Milgram, there she is again, not Milligram, Milgram, said according to an email shared with the Marijuana Moment. Upon review, DEA grants your request. So this is sort of like the example of what these experts, so-called experts, receive. Upon review, DEA grants your request. The hearing will be conducted pursuant to provisions of 5 U.S.C. 556 and 557 and 21 CFR 1308. 41-1308-45 and 1316.41-1316.68. Further information regarding the hearing and your participation will be provided by an administrative law judge designated to preside over the hearing. Aaron Smith, the executive director of NCIA, told Marijuana Moment on Tuesday, "We look forward to making sure that the independent small businesses that make up the heart of the cannabis industry have a seat at this table. Hearing, we're proud and able to participate. Cannabis obviously does not belong on Schedule 1 given the enormous evidence of medical efficacy and lower potential for abuse. And moving this out of control of the Controlled Substances Act is the right long-term move, he said. So that's, I guess, supporting descheduling, not rescheduling. So he's calling that the right long-term move. But in the short term, taking up the recommendation to move to Schedule 3 makes great sense for the country and the industry, but also needs to come with some guidance to federal industries or federal agencies rather, how to ensure that state licensed businesses can continue to operate under their state programs without federal interference. Well, let me interject something for a second. So that's always been the issue. However, we know that Schedule 3 substances are only administered through FDA regulated businesses, such as the production of Schedule 3 substances only happens at pharmaceutical companies and compounding manufacturers that basically are licensed by the FDA. So that basically what that means is that the FDA would have to now figure out a way to license the current existing businesses that deal with cannabis under the state regulated programs. Marijuana Moment reached out to the DEA for clarification on the complete list of witnesses who were invited, but the representative was not able to immediately comment. It is not clear how many witnesses the DEA has selected of the many who have submitted requests ahead of the hearing, nor is it apparent whether the agency will continue to grant requests on a rolling basis in the coming weeks. Representatives of major pro-marijuana organizations such as NORML and the Marijuana Policy Project said that they have not received a response for their request to participate in Tuesday's afternoon's hearing. While some advocates and stakeholders had hoped that the DEA would avoid taking the additional step of holding an administrative hearing and simply move to the final rulemaking, the agency has often scheduled hearings for regulatory proposals of major public interest. And rescheduling of cannabis for the first time since it was designated Schedule 1 over 50 years ago met that standard. That said, the hearing has added some uncertainty about the potential of the rescheduling timeline. There are some concerns that this December hearing means the rulemaking process would not be completed before January, which means administrative change-up after the November election that theoretically could affect the rescheduling process. DEA has already made it clear that it feels like additional information is needed on a number of topics to the scientific review of marijuana that has led to the reclassification recommendation. Some view the scheduling of the hearing as more evidence of the DEA's skepticism. For what it's worth, Vice President Kamala Harris and the Democratic presidential nominee says that part of the reason for the delay is the administration's marijuana rescheduling effort is the federal bureaucracy that slows things down, including at the DEA. In March, Harris also expressed some frustration with the bureaucratic process of rescheduling marijuana prior to DOJ's formal recommendation on calling the DEA to expeditiously finish the job. While the Biden-Harris administration facilitated the review that led to the DOA rescheduling proposal, former President Trump, the GOP presidential nominee, has also voiced support for the reform. And in this historic first in the U.S., both he and Harris are aligned on their support for cannabis legalization going into the election. So, yeah, I mean, certainly it's a very important issue for all of us in the room and most of our audience. I would assume that the general notion is that reducing or rescheduling from 1 down to 3 is the big admission by the government that there is demonstrated medical use. And we've talked about this on High at 9 before with Dr. T. Dr. T believes that, again, the so-called accepted medical use comes with the provision of DEA, not DEA, FDA approval of clinical preparations. While there are cannabinoids such as CBD and THC that have received FDA approval, cannabis flower and the way that most cannabis consumers consume cannabis has not been approved by the DEA. I'm sorry, I keep on saying the DEA, I meant the FDA. So just to sum up, I think that the FDA is going to have to figure out a new, and I think they've already admitted this, that cannabis does not fit into the FDA regimen of approval of monomolecular medicines. And I see Mathieu St. Germain nodding his head. I think he's in alignment with me on this too. So the DEA has to figure out that cannabis is not a drug. It's a botanical substance that brings a lot of medication that humans have enjoyed for millennia. And I think what they need to do is get out of the way, let people have access to this medicine. The reason why the FDA, who is aligned with the pharmaceutical companies, have fought this tooth and nail all the way is because they don't want people to be able to grow their own medicine. They want to get people hooked on pills that they have to go down to the CVS and the Walgreens to buy so they can start sucking on the insurance teat, which draws so much money and so much funds out of our Medicare system or out of our health insurance system that creates this huge 800-pound gorilla in the room. The insurance industry won't pay for cannabis, and they don't want us to grow cannabis, so there's still a lot of headwinds here, even around rescheduling. So that's what Dr. Mark has to say here on this lovely Friday afternoon on the shores of Lake Champlain here in Vermont. I'd love to hear what my fellow correspondents have to say. I know there's going to be some very heated discussion at this hearing. I hope this hearing is televised, and I hope rags like the Marijuana Moment cover it so we can break down the news for our audience here on the High at 9 News. Peace, folks.
Does anybody know anybody who's going to be testifying?
Yeah.
Do I don't know. I mean,
yes.
Who, Jason?
Okay.
Aaron Smith. Aaron Smith is going to be Aaron Smith is going to be testifying. He's the executive director of NCIA. I've known Aaron Smith for years. Yes, 100%.
There you go. Listen, I mean, much of the same, right? Like,
well,
cool. Here we go again. Much of the same. Kevin Sabet's going to come in there and tell us why cannabis is bad.
Yeah, he's going to steer the ship.
They paid a lot of money to do it.
He's going to steer the ship for sure. And if you look at the number of prohibitionists that have been accepted to speak versus how many activists have been are going to be chosen to speak, it's they far outnumbered by far.
You know what? The whole Ann Milgram delay shit, it's just disappointing because
is anyone surprised by this at all? Is anyone surprised by this at all?
No, I'm not.
At all?
I'm not saying I'm surprised or anything, but I'm saying it's just disappointing because, like Obama, she was pro a lot of things before she became part of the system, and then she just became another cog.
Mm-hmm.
Same
Fair.
Shit, different toilet.
Fair enough.
Disappointed, not surprised.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is that what you tell your kids when they get older? I gotta gear up for when my daughter starts disappointing.
Yeah. Yeah. My son doesn't disappoint me really, so I haven't used that one, but it's what I tell men. Really, it's usually I'm just disappointed.
I'm not mad.
Oh,
I'm not
man.
mad. I'm disappointed.
Yeah. That's the worst.
Tell them, afterward.
Do what?
So shout out to the C word who threw in a big old super chat. It says, with the election just around the corner, I just want to say that no matter who wins, we were lucky to have such brilliant candidates to choose from. Thank you so much, the C word. Yes. That is classic right there.
Giant douche and turd sandwich once again.
Oh, man. I'm surprised South Park hasn't done a new episode for this one yet.
It's coming. I'm sure it's coming.
It's got to be, right?
We need to check and see what The Simpsons said 10 years ago, because that's what's going to happen. But we all know that.
The Simpsons have done 1 million episodes. They've just predicted everything.
They
so
have.
It's like,
Literally.
No, they did. Like the Lisa Simpson outfit when she was in the presidency, Kamala Harris wore the same exact thing last week.
Oh, boy.
Oh, on that, we're going to go to a commercial. Oh, go ahead, Dr. Mark. What's that?
I was just going to add one thing real quick. Don't you think we've had enough hearings? You know, the fact that they're saying that, look, they just need to go to the final rulemaking. That's it.
Yep.
Just like what new information can they possibly get in a hearing?
Yeah, there's
like
been
Jenny
so much
said,
research done, right?
But it's all bullshit.
Right. All these hearings are giving me tinnitus.
So, I mean, maybe it was, all the MSOs were like, hey, Democrats, we really need you to do something for us, da 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 da. And so they're like, hey, you know what? We're going to come up with this thing called rescheduling, and that'll help boost your stock price so you guys can get some money, okay? And we're just going to run it out through the next thing, but nothing's ever going to happen.
And then we're going to reschedule it.
Yeah.
Maybe the real legalization was the friends we made along the way.